Imagine driving home through some fog late at night. You're on your way home to get some food, see your family, get a long night's sleep. After you get home, you go inside your house. Instead of your family being there greeting you, everything's very quiet. Everything's so quiet until you walk upstairs. You walk upstairs, you see your wife crying, holding your baby down. This actually happens to hundreds of thousands of people throughout time. And particularly in London, England in 1952, within 4 days, 4,000 people died and 100,000 were sick. This type of stuff happens when too many fossil fuels are burnt and it's not really controlled in the type of area it's going to be in. Also, it's not really monitored well. My name is Robert Bridger, and today I'll be talking to you about why we should slowly switch from the use of fossil fuels for our nation's energy to renewable sources. Here's a few graphs. I'm going to pass these around so you guys can take a look at them. So again, since I'm mainly talking about the shift from fossil fuels over to renewable energy and the reasons on why that should be happening, the sources I want to talk about are fossil fuels, wind energy, and solar energy. Yes, there are many other renewable sources out there, but again, these are the few I decided to pick, primarily because they're the ones that need developed the most. For credibility, I've taken just a few classes on earth sciences, natural sciences, even a couple on biology. I really enjoy the subjects, but again, I'm only going to be covering the very basics on these subjects. Nothing too crazy, nothing very in-depth, just touching on the top sources. For negative effects of fossil fuels. One is that it's a non-renewable resource. Why is it that we want to power our entire nation off something that we actually cannot power it on forever? We're basically powered on time stored. We're trying to power it on something that's only going to last for so long, yet we put so much resources in developing something that's going to run solely off of it. In time, we're going to have to change no matter what, so why not look at it now? Additionally, everyone believes, or the best scientific minds believe, that so far we'll only have about 50 years remaining of fossil fuels. If there's only 50 years remaining, we definitely need to start looking at alternatives now, and preferably why run completely out when later on we might find even better use for these fossil fuels. Lastly, just the last little piece I'm going to touch on is how bad fossil fuels are for you, how bad they harm you. The story I actually told you at the beginning is true, and it's actually even happened in America, I think in 2 different specific times. It's happened in Europe multiple times. And many people died from it. It's really sad, it's tragic. The last thing I'm sure you'd ever want to see with your own family or anybody else. Now that we've covered just a few of the negative aspects of fossil fuels, I'm just going to go ahead and move on to the renewable resource of wind. Alright, one reason why we should use wind energy is the fact that it's renewable. I obviously said that at the beginning, that's the fact on why we should use it. The primary reason on why we should use it is because once we develop it and it starts creating energy for our nation, it shouldn't really cease to function anymore. So long as we maintain the building itself, or the power itself, it's not just going to up and stop. There's no time in our future where we actually see the wind stop. Supplies is free. The only cost for wind energy primarily is going to be to actually build the plants to receive it. Once we build the plants to receive the wind energy, again, minimal cost, minimal people to actually run it. Yes, it might create a few less jobs, but there's going to be more jobs in the development of these energies. Lastly, they release no pollutants. Really, the only negative effects I was able to read up on wind energy was that occasionally, yes, a bird might fly into it and die. That is very, very sad. But in the long run, I do not see that mattering so much over the fossil fuels, which already kills hundreds of thousands of animals and even people. So I'm pretty sure trading it off, it's not going to be as bad. Now that we've covered both fossil fuels and wind energy, let's move on to the last renewable resource I'm going to cover, which is going to be solar. Solar is by far the most powerful. Obviously, it's one of the most underdeveloped. We don't quite understand how to fully gather all that energy and actually store it more in a battery, something that's going to last longer for when the sun's not shining. The technology is increasing, but far more is needed, especially on a large scale. If you guys ever seen the solar panels on the side of someone's house, maybe it's used just to warm their pool, or it's used to light a few lights outside. The Marine Corps base actually has them on Camp Pendleton for the street lights you'll see when you drive down in the middle of nowhere and there's just a light sitting out there. Those usually are solar panels. So again, we have it on the small scale, but now we need it on a more large corporation or skyscrapers that run completely off of solar power. Those are possible, but again, technology really needs to improve to make it more affordable and more realistic. Large quantities are usually available with solar power. And especially with fossil fuels providing actually 70% of our nation's energy sources, we really need to develop the most powerful source of all the renewable resources, which is solar power. Lastly, just like wind power, it doesn't pollute any of our air, it doesn't pollute any of our water. It's so long as we're taking care of it, really the only pollution from it is going to be people driving to work, which already happens everywhere else, and a few other little side pieces, but the solar power itself does not pollute our atmosphere. In conclusion, what I've covered with you was just a few reasons on why fossil fuels are negative. Again, there's many more, and you guys can feel free to look at it on your own. We've covered wind power, which is very useful, a little bit underdeveloped, definitely has some more areas where we could throw up some more of these places. But again, more technology is required on that. And solar power, which is by far the most powerful, but we really needs a lot more technology advancements on that to make it more affordable on a large scale. To close with this, I'm going to say one thing from Thomas Edison. I put my money on the sun and solar energy. What a source of power. I hope that we don't have to wait for oil and coal to run out before we tap it.